Welcome, fellow knitters, back to Contemplative Knitting. My name is Julie Sikora, and this is my YouTube channel. And I'm awfully glad that you've checked back in to see what I'm up to in terms of my knitting. Happy Advent to you. This is a perfect time to kind of take a little break from all those Christmas preparations and settle in with a nice cup of coffee under a quilt near a fire and just give yourself a break. We all need a break this time of year. We're all going 100 million miles an hour getting ready for Christmas, so it's fun to just sit back and relax. And I thought I'd give you some update on my knitting since we last met. So I have some finished objects. I've been knitting some accessories, which for a sweater knitter like myself tend to go very quickly and are very satisfying to get some things done, especially from my stash. Well, last time we left our heroine, I was in a love note kind of mood, and I've knit one for my granddaughter, which was sort of in the Merlot color. I knit a linen love note, and now I have completed my third, who knows, not my last, I don't know, love note. It's my sparkle love note. That's what I call it. So it's really cool. I think you can get a sense of some of the sparkle as I turn and twirl in front of the light that I have. It's made with this fingering, which I bought at Rhinebeck in I don't know. Anyway, I brought it for the Mizraka sweater, and that didn't work with this yarn. So I decided to use it for a love note, and I've got the mohair, which is Spun Right Round Mohair, which is a Rochester, New York company. And it's beautiful mohair. It's mohair silk, 72% kid mohair, 28% silk, 459 yards for 50 grams, and it's in the color ink. Oh, I love blue. That's my favorite color. So I have a little bit left over from, this is a full skein, and then I held this lovely Sequenicity yarn, which is a Ella Ray yarn, Sequenicity, and this is in the color Midnight. Isn't this incredible? It's really cool. It's thin. It's doesn't add any bulk, so it doesn't screw with your gauge, but it adds sparkle. And how can you not love that? I mean, it's not huge sequins. I wanted just sort of sparkle, not like a sequin sweater. And I got exactly what I wanted. I think it's really cool. And I noticed on the Grocery Girls latest episode that they were showing this yarn. I think they got it from the Crafty Jackalope, but they had colors. They had copper and gold and yellow and midnight and silver. Oh my gosh. So it's just fun. You can add this probably to anything you're knitting. The one thing I noticed was I would feel the mohair and the fingering in my fingers, and sometimes I would look down and I'd only have those two things, and I had left behind this little thin strip of Sequenicity, so I'd have to tick back and grab it again and make sure I had all three yarns that I was using. But I just am very happy with the results, and so I'm hoping, because I have some of this, I'm not sure how much of it, so I used 2 skeins and a little bit of the third for this love note for myself. So I'm thinking maybe some mittens or a hat, or I don't have that much fingering left, but I definitely have some for some fingerless gloves, which would be beautiful, I think, with the sparkle. So I'm really happy with the love note. I can see why thousands of people have knit this pattern. I mean, the lace is fun. I think it looks good with the white underneath it. It's warm, it's comfortable, easy to get a good fit. I did bracelet length for the arms. That way I don't get it in stuff. So I'm really happy with it. It looks great with a pair of jeans. I have a black skirt on. Got the white shirt underneath. It's just, It's a wonderful, fun sweater, especially in the dark winter kind of time. I've got lights on because it's 4 o'clock and it's gonna be dark soon. You could probably just watch the light fade away behind me. So that's my big sweater finish for the month of November into December. I finished this a while back and I'm really happy with it. So part of my strategy this year is to go into my stash. I have a spreadsheet of my stash. Now my stash is not skeins, it's projects. I need to have, well, for most of the yarn I have, I'd say 90% is dedicated to something that I've envisioned that yarn is going to be. So I have a spreadsheet, and I'll show you this because I have to go through my projects because some of them I've realized lately that I am not gonna ever wear a peplum sweater that I started 15 years ago, and I may need to repurpose that yarn and frog back what I have. So I need to do a stash organization, which I'll do in January. So I went into my spreadsheet and I saw I had one skein of chunky merino superwash from Plymouth that I had designated to make this pair of mittens called the Tilda mittens. So I got that out. I figured, well, that's going to be a good, easy project. And it was. Now, it doesn't say what the color is for this chunky merino superwash, but it's either natural or white. And so I made this pair of mittens. You can see it's one cable with a little cable on the side. It's on size 6 needles for the cuff and size 8 needles for the mittens. So I spent like a week making this mitten, you know, knitting on it kind of on and off. And the pattern Tilda mittens is Inese, I-N-E-S-E, Sang, S-A-N-G. And then the next one I did in 2 days. I'm like, oh, it was fun. I knew the pattern. All I had to do was kind of change which side the thumb went on. And it just went, it was super easy. So I love them. They're just perfect. The perfect kind of mitten. It's soft. It will look good with everything. Great for walking the dog. Warm. And just enough of a pattern to look really cool. So yeah, two TV nights, boom, pair of mittens. I mean, chunky yarn is great for that, particularly if you want to get something done quickly. So cross off on my spreadsheet, got another one out of my stash. And I love them and I need them, and you know, who doesn't need an extra pair of mittens laying around this time of year? So really happy about that. So 2 finished objects, the sweater and the mittens, and of course we had to do a hat, right? So I have been into bees lately. I went to a quilt store recently and bought some beautiful bee fabric. I mean, I'm talking about the insect. I'll show you, I don't think I showed you last episode, I forgot, but I'll review it, and if I haven't, I'll show it to you. It's really, really cool fabric. So I found this hat pattern called the Beeswax hat, and I did that. Now this took me a little bit. It's really cool. I love how the honeycombs kind of start from the ribbing, and they start up, and then they just go around the entire hat. I think it's just really a beautiful pattern. The top is gorgeous. The way it decreases. It's just an amazing hat. And it was in my stash because I had some of this yarn from Stephen and Penelope that I had left over from another project. I had a lot of it left over. I had a couple skeins. And so I wanted to know, what should I do with it? And I bought this pattern because of the color. I mean, it looks like honeybee stuff, right? So I got it. I'm desperately looking for the ball band. I'm going to confess to you that this is the second time I've done this podcast because Oh, it was a lighting problem, and now I'm losing my natural light. But it is tandem. I know it's tandem. It is from Stephen and Penelope, and it's a DK weight yarn, and it's beautiful. I'm not quite sure of the color, but oh, here is the ball band. It's in here, I think. Nope. Anyway, tandem. It's a West wool yarn from Stephen and Penelope, and it's nice, it's squishy, it's DK. Gotta love it. So the hat was knit on size 6, and I got the gauge for the hat with a size 6 needle. Then the same woman has, and let me tell you who this woman is, but she has a pattern for, of course, beeswax fingerless gloves. Gotta love those, right? So I had a lot left over, and I loved how the hat looked. So I thought, well, why not do the fingerless gloves? Now the interesting thing is, it's Amy Vandelar is the gorgeous designer for this. Amy Vandelar. The fingerless gloves, when I did that gauge swatch, the only way I could get gauge, and I didn't do the full 4 inches, but I did enough to know, if I was making gauge. And it is stretchy, but I had to go down to a 2.5 millimeter needle, which I think is about a size 3 or a size 2. I have to look it up. It only shows the millimeters here, 2.5. So they're small, and I did a size 6 on the hat and got gauge and the hat fits. So this is on these small needles, and I thought, well, this is never going to work. Isn't that cool how the pattern comes up out of the ribbing? I just think it's the coolest thing. Of course, I'm going to have these matching fingerless gloves with the hat, but because I've got it on these 3 needles, I tried it on, and it's fine. So I'm forging ahead with this. So I'm really excited. I don't think that I am going to use up this entire skein doing these fingerless mitts, needless to say. So there is a cowl pattern, which of course I have now purchased. I am going to have the entire ensemble in my bee stage of life that I'm interested in. I just think it's such a cool honeycomb design. So I'm going to have the hat, the fingerless gloves, and the cowl. Now, again, this did take a while to knit. I mean, this is pretty intricate. You got to follow the chart, or she also includes written instructions, which, believe it or not, I prefer. I know everyone else likes the chart, but I'm just old-fashioned and love the written instructions. This does take a while. I'm sure the fingerless mitts will go fairly quickly because there's not a lot of knitting there. The cowl, on the other hand, is going to be bigger than the hat. So it'll be interesting, but I'm excited. I love the yarn, love the pattern, love how it's coming out. So I am committed to doing that. So it's a good portable project because it's small. So those are my finished objects: the sweater, the mittens, the hat, and of course I had to show you the work in progress on the mitts because it's the same pattern. Now I do have a half finished object because I'm trying to take one from the stash, work on that, then I buy something, then I can do a new thing. But I am trying to work down my project stash. So I went in and looked, and I had these, what I call the wavy blue socks. Now, I hate when podcasters do this. I'm going to show you this sock. I have paper for the pattern in the little, and I don't know where the pattern comes from. It's from a book, and it says favorite socks on one side of the pattern and timeless designs from Interweave on the other. It doesn't even have the name of the sock, so forgive me out there in podcast land, but I do need your help. So I call them the wavy blue socks. I did the scalloped edge instead of a ribbing. And then we've got this really pretty lacy pattern that goes around the whole sock and then down the front of the sock, which I think is really gorgeous. Then it's got a heel flap and gusset, and then your normal kind of toe. Yes, just regular toe decreases, and then a Kitchener on the last 12 stitches. It fits perfectly. I mean, when I took it out from my stash, I think I picked up the knitting from here and I knit this. That's all I had to do for this sock. So, I just am very happy. I have another skein of this yarn, and this is a yarn by Claudia and Company. She's ClaudiaCo.com. She's out of Harrisburg, Virginia, and it's hand painted yarn, fingering weight 100% merino wool. So I've had this forever. So I do have another skein that's dropped over here, but it looks just like this. But what I need help with is, I was on a trip to Arizona because my husband was renewing his pilot's license. Once you're a pilot, but he hadn't flown in 10 years, so he had to take some lessons and get recertified. There's a word for it. And he couldn't really do it in upstate New York because it's cloudy, it's raining, it's visually it's hard to take a plane up with all of that horrifying weather going on. So we went to Arizona, and he did a week worth of flying lessons to get his flying back up to snuff. So while I was down there, of course, I took some knitting, which is where I got the hat done, and I finished the sock. And so then I tried to start it, and I got distracted. I wound the yarn, started it, got distracted, messed it all up. And the reason I tried to start it right away is because I have second sock syndrome. I have a lot of one socks that I've knit. That's why I'm not a big sock knitter. I really want these socks. I mean, it fits like a dream. I almost memorized the pattern because I just finished knitting the sock. So I thought I'd jump on it right away, start it, just work away at it, get the second sock done because it's sock wearing weather. But I had a failure and I got discouraged. I mean, I know I can do it. I think I just have to not be with friends in an Airbnb talking away and not paying attention to what I'm doing. So, how do you guys motivate yourself to do the second sock? Are you all out there doing magic loop, knitting 2 at a time? I mean, I need some suggestions because I really do want the sock, but right now I'm really distracted with other stuff and I don't even want to put it on, but I don't want to end up with this one really pretty sock. So any help and advice be appreciated. Just put it down in the comments and see if I can get myself going on that. Maybe I should just make myself accountable and tell you that I'll have a good bit knit before I do another podcast. So that'll either work or make me delay the podcast. I forgot. I have another finished object. While I was in Arizona, a friend of mine texted me and asked me if after the holidays I would make her a hat. And so I said, sure. And she texted me the pattern that she had bought. And it's the owl hat by Julie Grimmett. Grimmett. Julie Grimmett, the owl hat. And her concept was to make a gray hat that she could wear, and that for the owl's eyes you use buttons, and that we would put different colored buttons in the owl's eyes so it would go with her different colored winter coats. So I thought, oh, that sounds really cool, and I was going to visit the yarn store in Tempe, and I thought, well, I'll look and see what sort of gray yarn they have. So I did go, and they had some Barocco yarn, gray yarn, worsted weight, Barocco yarn, great yarn. So I got that, and I proceeded to knit the pattern. And I did sew 2 buttons. I'm going to go down there and we're going to decide what other colors we're going to sew on. I mean, my friend got me the buttons. So these are the buttons. They're all the correct size and they're all different colors. That is fun. So I did sew on 1 pair of buttons, which made me realize I gotta get a needle threader because I had to use a magnifying glass to thread the needle. But isn't that adorable? I think that's so cool. So we got the yellow eyes, and we'll put eyes on all of these, and it goes all the way around. The cool thing about the hat, I put some extra ribbing in. I would suggest not to do that. I think the pattern's good because you don't need the extra ribbing. You can see how that works. It's just like 1 or 2 rows I put in. Well, maybe I like it, the extra ribbing, but it's you do the owls and then it's stockinette after that. So, and with worsted weight, it's a fast knit. So I did it in like a day. She's like, "Oh, you don't have to do it until after the holidays." I'm like, "No, I got time now," and you know, it was fun. And you know, I love this woman dearly, and so just kind of something fun the 2 of us could think about together. So I'm going to go down to her house and we're going to figure out the order of the buttons, and I'm going to hopefully be able to thread the needle so that we can figure out how to get all those buttons on. So Barocco, worsted weight, merino wool, beautiful, fun, great little pattern. Okay, so the other works in progress that I have going are the camisole. Now, I know I've talked about this several times and haven't done a thing. So let me just show you what it looks like. This is not the best picture because they, in their beautiful artwork way, they kind of made it so. I'll show you a close-up. You can see it. So this camisole I've talked about making before. I am making it out of 100% cashmere. And I've shown the yarn on the podcast before, and my thought was it's just going to be a great layering garment because I want it next to my skin, and then, you know, underneath a flannel shirt or another sweater that might be a little itchy, so you wear the cashmere underneath. And I just couldn't get it started because it's a very unique construction, so I knew I was going to have to focus on it to try and figure out the construction. Once I got started on it, it's pretty way easier than I thought. But what you do is you knit these triangles. You can tell my favorite color. This is a really dark blue. So you knit these triangles and you make 4. And eventually you make all 4 triangles, and then then they all come together at the bottom, and then you go around and around and around, and that will become my TV knitting. Oh, this yarn is just so incredibly soft. It is just amazing. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting this to a point where it becomes mindless knitting, because right now I don't have any mindless knitting. I mean, the scalloped edge on that sock is not mindless. The fingerless gloves for the bee thing is not mindless. This isn't. This is semi-mindless. You just have to track your increases, which I do on my phone because I use Knit Companion. So this isn't too bad. So I'd like to get all 4 of those triangles made and at least into a circle. And then I think it'll go pretty quickly. But it's just a really soft yarn. There's something about luxury yarn that is just so fun to knit with. It's just feels good, it's relaxing. I know I'm gonna love having that next to my skin. But I'll tell you what is really taking my time and attention at the current moment. I am such a sweater knitter. I think having accessories to throw in a bag if you're going somewhere and you're going to have to wait is great, especially if once you get a sweater going, it can get really big and bulky. Although I am an Episcopal priest, I'm retired, but I was doing a service today. I had an 8 o'clock and a 10 o'clock. And in between the service, I have about a half an hour where nobody's really around that I knit. And instead of throwing in one of my little accessories, I threw in my current sweater. So I had this wonderful experience at Woolen Folk at Rhinebeck this year. It's the festival prior to the New York Sheep and Wool. And I saw this gorgeous sweater on a model, you know, one of the dress form is what I'm trying to say. And it was gorgeous. And I was looking at it and thinking, oh, I told myself I wasn't going to buy any yarn at Woolen Folk. But I took a picture of it. I was so enamored with it. And then you know how you don't buy something and then you're thinking to yourself, oh, I should have bought that because you can't get it out of your mind. Well, that's what happened. Well, lucky for me, there was a second chance because I went to the Rochester Knitting Guild shop show. There's a Knitting Guild meeting in Rochester, and they had a shop night, and this woman, Meg, her company is Meg's and Company. She's an independent dyer, lives in Rochester area, and it was her sweater that I saw at Woolen Folk. She had a booth at Woolen Folk. I'm like, oh my gosh, how lucky can I get? So she had the same sweater on the dress form, and I went up to her. I said, I have been thinking about that sweater since I was down at the New York Sheep and Wool Festival in October. So she said, well, I have one kit left. I'm like, yes, because I wanted to make it in the yarn that I saw it in. I mean, it's incredible. So let me show you the pattern. The pattern is called The Stars of Barbros. Yeah, who knew that? The Stars of Barbros. Barbro. B-A-R-B-R-O. Barbro. Stars of Barbro. So here is the pattern. Look at the sleeve detail. Isn't that cool? It's like shooting stars. I think it's amazing. There's one and here is some another colorway. I just love it. The cool thing, it's DK. I haven't knit a DK sweater in a long time. I've knit so it's gonna go fast. So anyway, for the main color, I got Meg and Company. This is called Shoreline. Here's her label, and it is hand dyed in small batches in Fairport, New York, and it's a 4-ply DK weight, 230 yards for 100 grams, DK Merino, 100%. Oh, it's gorgeous. And so the contrast color is called Acorn. I know, I'm into the gold. What can I tell you? It's my B frame of life, but I just love this color, and the contrast looks really good. So I just started it. I love how it starts with a contrast color, and then you gradually bring in the main color. So there it is. I just started it 2 days ago. I'm just gonna kind of getting down to where the star's gonna start. Isn't it gorgeous? So when I do color work, I put markers between each of the repeats. So that way if I forget something, you know, I know what's happening. I also, when I do color, I use 2 hands. So I have the dominant color. I'm a right-handed knitter. I have the dominant color in this hand, which I throw with. And then I have the contrast color in this hand. So I do the picking. So I have 2 yarns, both hands, and then I pick with the with this one, and then I throw with the regular one. So that's how I do it. You can look at on the internet with way better teachers than myself, but it makes it like you're just knitting. I mean, I did teach myself continental knitting because I was getting tendonitis in my hand. I just needed a different way to knit. I can do it knitting. I can't purl continental way, but and it does throw off your tension when you switch back and forth a little bit. Mine's not that bad, but if you're doing something just stock knit, you know, try it. If you're not a continental knitter, just try it. I mean, eventually it feels very awkward, just like knitting did in the beginning, but eventually you get it, and that way this kind of thing goes fairly quickly. I think it's going to be gorgeous. So hopefully in January you'll see more of this sweater. I can't promise it'll be done in a month, but I have a feeling I'm going to be spending a lot of time on it because I really, really, really like it. So Megan Company in Fairport spun right round in Rochester. Aren't we lucky? How did we end up with all of these yarn companies? Ugh. Anyway, Meg started a fiber night, so we do that Wednesday night. We usually meet at bars. And she calls it fiber night because there's crocheters and knitters and people are doing needle felting and counted cross stitch. It's so cool. This Wednesday night we're going to be at Liftbridge Yarns in Fairport, our local yarn store is hosting, so I'm really excited. They just moved locations and I haven't seen the new location, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. As you know, when I travel and when I spent time in Arizona, I did go to the Tempe yarn store in Tempe. It's beautiful, it's big, they have all their yarns sorted by weight, so you have all the fingerings and the bulkies and the worsted and the DK, and their owner does a lot of dyeing. So I wanted to get a hand-dyed skein from her store because I love to do that as a souvenir. And she had this, which is a fingering, and it's 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, 450 yards. So I thought maybe a lovely pair of fingerless gloves. I found a new pattern that I kind of like, so I'm trying to figure it out what I want to do with it. But I thought the purple was really cool because when the sun sets in Arizona, it reminds me of, it just gets very purpley and over the desert. And I thought, oh, this is the exact shade of what I see as the sun goes down and the sky turns like this beautiful purple. So it's my lovely souvenir from my time in Arizona and from the Tempe yarn store, dyed by the owner, which I think is super cool. So that's my latest acquisition. That's it from me for now. I did want to tell you that what I'm thinking of doing for January is showing you how I organize my stash and kind of going through it and letting go of some of the projects in the stash that just aren't going to happen. I've had this sweater that was from Vogue Knitting Magazine probably 15 years ago. It's a beautiful sweater. It's a peplum style. I love the pattern, but I don't think I'd wear it. So anyway, I need to make some decisions about what I have in my stash. We have this incredible place in Rochester, I'm sure I've talked about it, called Sew Green, SEW, and I can take yarn there and donate it, and then they resell it at a very, very friendly price. And that way it just doesn't sit languishing in my stash. So I've had a spreadsheet of all the projects. I have different bins, so I know this project is in bin 3. I have them organized in plastic bags because I'm a very visual person. I have to look at the, I have to see them. Out of sight, out of mind for me. So, but since they're all in bins in a closet, it is out of sight even though they're in clear plastic. So I created the spreadsheet, but I really need to go in and kind of cull out what I'm never going to do, make more room for the stuff I am excited about. So organization in January, right? We're all up for that because it's a new year and that's what we're going to do. So that's what's up and coming next time. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful Advent. I hope you can take some time in the darkness, in the cold, and just sort of cuddle up and spend some silent time just allowing the world to slow down. And so you can enjoy this Christmas holiday time, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, and take some time for yourself to knit and to contemplate what's gone on in the past and what you hope for the future. In the meantime, have a great holiday, and I will see you in January. Thanks for watching.